Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we might be expecting a balance patch this week as we're actually a couple weeks removed from the latest patch. Typically, we get nerfs every 2 weeks after a patch. We did have the expansion go live, but remember, early access brawl and all that, so I thought I would go over, speculate on what I think could get nerfed or what I would like to see get nerfed, as well as mention some stuff that probably should get buffed. In particular, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna suggest buffing Priest because it's pretty rough. So yeah, we're gonna go through all that. Love to hear what you guys, your takes on what you would like to see get nerfed, what you would like to see get buffed or left alone, all that good stuff. And as always, if you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like. We're on that road to 100,000 subscribers, that full-on brand cosplay, and we will likely do a giveaway at 95K. I just want to, you guys have been crazy, and I feel like I need to give back. So 95,000 subscribers, we're probably going to give away some packs or something. We'll take a look if or when we get there. So yeah, hit that sub button. I guess eventually make me go broke. Anyways, you take a look at the front page of HS Replay, which is never super useful, but always a good starting point. We see Hunter and Demon Hunter near the top, Warlock Deathlight, only 4 classes above 50%, and you can see 5 classes basically 45% or worse, which is pretty rough. And out of those classes, Shaman's actually pretty good at higher ranks, but the rest not doing amazingly well. And if we look at the actual meta itself, things get a little bit more clear with a Zerg token hunter being the best deck at like Diamond through Legend, at Legend only falling off at the highest of ranks, where a constant is Location Warlock being absolutely top tier, Discover Hunter being very close behind, and that again play those giants, which we'll obviously talk about. And then you got the StarCraft decks with like Protoss Druid, you got the Leech Spaceship Deathlight, and of course probably the most contentious deck out there, Armor Demon Hunter. Not the best by any means, but basically the most frustrating experience out there. And if you can't tell by the thumbnail, yes, I think for sure it's gonna get nerfed. And yeah, a lot of StarCraft decks, and you look at the bottom, that's where we have Imbue Priest at 30%, Evolve Shaman, the Imbue Shaman 41%, Imbue Druid 42%. All the Imbue decks, for the most part, that aren't working are at the absolute bottom, with Imbue Mage, basically with Protoss, being pretty close. And if you nerf all the stuff above it, probably won't be that bad. And then yeah, you look at HS Guru at top 1K, similar story, Location Warlock, and then the Shamans really stand out here with Terran Shaman being one of the best decks in the game despite how many nerfs last patch. Nebula Shaman, that's the whole Murmur thing, being up there, so that's to look out for. And we're looking at card popularity, Ceaseless Expanse, despite getting nerfed last patch to a 10/10, shockingly, the effect is really good still and is in over 50% of decks, with Xavius over 40% and Kill Jaden at a quarter. Don't think Kill Jaden will get hit now, but it is a card that I hate, that it like negates the whole point of fatigue and running out of resources when you're just slabbing infinite demons. But anyways, let's take a look at what cards I think will get nerfed and maybe what could get buffed. So obviously starting off, Arcanite Defense Crystal. By the way, there's still a dust refund on this card because it just got nerfed. Can you imagine if it gained the 6 armor now? With that deck, it'd be even more armor, like they need it. But yes, I expect this to get nerfed to the point where it's probably 5 mana, 4/5, gain 6 armor, gain 5 armor. Buff it so it doesn't get resurrected by Ravenous Fellhunter, I think it's called. The 5 mana card that gives you the double version of it. You can bring back this version with the 7 drop, but you can't double dip as much, and it can still be used as that defensive card for any other Starship deck. Slows it down a little bit, but I mean, to be honest, that loop is disgusting, and they probably don't want to nerf the brand new card. You could look at it for sure. You can make it resurrect 2 friendly Death Rattle minions, right? So you're not guaranteed to get that Starship both times, or you can't get it both times, or you can only get it once. You could nerf this card. You could, I guess, nerf the more expensive one, but more likely, why not nerf the card that just got nerfed, the older card, and see what this can do with some other Death Rattles. Only StarCraft card to not be, or hero card, sorry, to not be 8 mana Artanis, probably gonna go to 8 mana, right? Those Protoss decks really good. I think they want to, you know, make StarCraft not the meta, and I expect to see lots of StarCraft nerfs yet again this patch, and Artanis to 8 makes a lot of sense, particular in like Druid, where you can play the Pylon and get this out really early, or even Rogue, like Sandbox Scoundrel can get Artanis out quickly, and it's so hard to come back from, and then enables all the other stuff. If you slow it down a turn, certainly helps, but no, that's not the only StarCraft nerfs I think that will happen. To me, I feel like the reason StarCraft decks feel so frustrating, so boring, honestly, is how consistent they are, and each faction, I think, should have their draw tutor nerfed, every single one of them. So Chrono Boost, the Liftoff card, Nidus Worm, I think all of them should get changed. There's multiple ways of going about it. To me, I would probably just go with Chrono Boost here, right? It says draw 2 Protoss cards, draw 2 different Protoss cards. So Chrono Boost can't draw Chrono Boost, Liftoff can't draw Liftoff. It makes the tutors not tutor themselves, making it slightly less consistent. I could see that change. The more realistic change, yeah, this goes to 5, all of them go up a mana, or only draw 1 card or something. But to me, this is what makes those StarCraft decks way too consistent, and just makes it so the downside of running a small package of faction cards isn't really there when you're likely to get one of your tutors, which tutors another tutor, and then you have everything, and it's the same game every single time. And a card that should have got hit last patch, but will certainly get hit this one, is most of the top decks in Standard and a lot of ranks run Seaside Giant. This could come down for 0 really early. And yeah, with the StarCraft set, we got all those cheap locations. Most of us forgot this card existed and wasn't like even thinking about this. And now it's like a meta tyrant. I could see it going to like 12, 14, 16 mana, right? Making it so you have to use more and more locations. You can make it cost 1 less for each time you've used a location in this game. I just feel like getting those early giants out, really frustrating play pattern, blows out games really early, and with the lack of removal, it feels like in the game, a lot of removal was removed from the core set, as well as just overall through rotation, that early giants, most classes can't deal with it. It's just over. And yeah, I feel like to make those early game blowouts less, Seaside Giant is likely, I think 100% to get nerfed. I would be shocked if it wasn't. And as that like token hunter deck is doing really well, and all the location decks in Zerg are doing really well, it would not shock me. I wouldn't put it high on my list, but it wouldn't shock me if Spawning Pool went to 2 mana on 1. It's always felt insanely strong. If you're already nerfing Seaside Giant though, you probably don't need to nerf this, but I feel like you need to nerf the token hunter deck. And are you gonna nerf the amphibian, the new 2 mana spell right away? Because that's the other outlier. You're looking at Spawning Pool. That 2 mana spell is the top 2 cards to mulligan for. You gotta hit one of them if you're nerfing that deck. It's dominating at every level except top 1k. So it's like you hit either Spawning Pool to hit all these decks, or you hit that new card to hit the hunter deck. I'm not sure what they'll do. I'm leaning towards more of they'll nerf Spawning Pool maybe, or just ignore it entirely. I'm not sure. But yeah, to me, Spawning Pool is certainly one you could consider, but I wouldn't be shocked or super upset if it was left alone. I won't be biased as much as I love sucking my opponents to death with Suck DK. It's overtuned. It's overtuned. It doesn't have StarCraft cards. It doesn't have Seaside Giant, yet it is still one of the best decks out there. And if you nerf everything else, how are you gonna beat it, right? And yeah, Hideous Husk, when this comes down, is just insane. It's so busted, stealing 3 health from each leech, and you get 2 guaranteed. Well, there could be more on the board. It just wins the game. I feel like there's 2 ways of nerfing this card. One, you make it 7 mana, which probably kills the card or makes it a lot worse. Or you make it steal 1 more health from their victims instead of 2, so you only take 2 instead of 3, which would still be a good card, but not as absolutely, to me, game breaking. But you can also eliminate some health from the leeches or this card itself. But Hideous Husk, it's gotta change. It's too good, and it pains me to say because I love playing that deck. But hey, you gotta put your bias aside. When something's too good, it's too good. And yeah, this sucks just a little too hard. And yeah, Ceaseless just got nerfed, but let's be real, it was rarely the stats that made the hugest impact. Don't get me wrong, a 15-15 is a lot better than a 10-10, but a 0 mana board clear that can enable whatever OTK you want, giant tempo swing, is just too good, and it's in over 50% of decks right now. It kind of creates the inevitable, your board doesn't matter, and you're gonna lose to either, again, like an OTK, or just an unanswerable board swing, or they just ceaseless you back, right? I don't think neutral board clears should exist at a powerful level, period. Like in Classic, we had Deathwing as the neutral board clear. It was all in, not very good card, and they just really haven't existed. When they have, it's like Reno, which drove people crazy. I guess you got the Yogs, kind of, but overall, I would cap this. I would make it so you can't play it for like less than 5 or 6. Make it so that it has to cost something, so you can't just play it freely and then develop whatever you want, whether it's an OTK, a big tempo swing. Make it just a board clear. That would still be really good. They could also just make it more expensive, like 125 mana, 150 mana, and then Holy Wrath Paladins hitting even harder in Wild. Not that you really need more than 100 in Wild anyways, but it'd be funny if they put it to like 101 and called it a day. But Ceaseless, very likely to get hit, despite, again, it just got nerfed, but that was a super minor nerf. And I'll just say the last card that's really on my radar, this is much more of a high legend thing, but it is a horrible play pattern, is the Murmur deck. Like that, what? What flavor text exactly when they play it, where they Murmur with the Sanctuary, the Parrot Sanctuary card, then they can click it, making all the other battle cries 0 and play like Ysera, play Bob, they end up usually playing like Hagatha into the Slimes, into Nebula, blow you out, turns 5 and 6, they win the game. Super uninteractive, frustrating, very Dungar-esque, which hasn't been nerfed. And if you look, there are Dungar decks out there, so maybe Dungar gets nerfed, but I feel like it's just under the radar. Probably not. I would love to see Dungar get nerfed, don't get me wrong. Anyways, with the Murmur, it would just take over High Legend Ladder if they just leave this alone. If they nerf everything else, I'm suggesting like nerfs to every StarCraft deck, every location deck, Death Knight, all that stuff. If Murmur doesn't get hit, then it's just gonna be that. I really do think so. The way I would change it, you could make it like 7 or 8 mana, slow it down, or make it so that with the location, if you click the button, this aura effect stays present. That no matter what, your battle cry minions cost 1, because that's what it says, right? They cost 1. The location just shouldn't override it. Make it so that, I guess if you have Ysera, you could do the thing, or I guess Bob, you can refresh, but I guess it wouldn't be that great a fix, right? You still have other ways to work around it, so not entirely sure if that's the way to go, or just make this a much more expensive card. Slow down that pop-off turn, we'll see, but Murmur really does stand out. Now that I've murdered every single card in Hearthstone with my suggestions, predictions, whatever you want to call them, what should we buff? Well, Imbue Priest, we saw is like at 30%. It's terrible. It's bad. Why does this card have 1 health for 2 mana? I just want to compare it, let's just say, to the Hunter one. That's a 2 mana 2/2 that also imbues and draws a specific card out of your deck. The tax you pay on this is you get lifesteal to a minion that like will almost always certainly die even when you play it. I would just say make this a 1 mana 2/1, so you can curve into that hero power if you really want, and it doesn't feel that bad. It's nice and cheap, but I would make it a 1 mana 2/1. I think that would be pretty nice for Priest. And the same argument I'm gonna say for Keldore Priestess. You look at the 4 mana neutral option with Taunt. It's a better card than this on average. You get a Divine Shield, a Taunt that can protect you. It's good in like almost any spot. Whereas this like debuff stuff for a turn. Like it's not amazing. I would just make it a 3 mana 3/3. Make it 3 mana. Again, it curves a little bit better. Is it worse than a neutral? Which you honestly, same thing goes for Messenger, right? The 2/3 I'd argue is just better. You get premium stats. Like this is better than a 3/1 with lifesteal on average. So if you're looking at buffing Imbue, Priest, I would buff both enablers. That would probably go a long way. Paladin, I just can't see buffing any of these cards because they're all just good. They're just, the deck isn't working. Like, what are you gonna do? Make this, what are you gonna do, right? Like you can't really buff these cards. I can't see it, even though the deck is struggling. With Druid, you could probably buff, like maybe Photosynthesis goes to 2 mana, restore 5 health, or again, I don't know what we're doing because those decks don't feel that far off. I kind of want to just wait and see how things would go after nerfs with a deck like this, because if you overtune it, then it's really obnoxious. However, Shaman is super far off. And I don't know how this card costs 2 mana. In any universe, restoring 4 health is less than a mana worth of value. We have Flash Heal in Wild, like an old card for Priest, that does 5, and it's 1 mana, so you're paying a 1 mana plus tax just for an Imbue. and it's not a minion. It's just I think this card's terrible. It should be at the worst 1 mana, right? 1 mana at least I would buff this to, or give it another effect, something. It's atrocious how bad this card is. I don't think you need to buff this card. It's seen play in some lists, but maybe you make it 2 mana 1/2, right? You could consider that. It's a possibility. This card's terrible. It could be like 4 mana. Like almost all the shaman cards, like Typhoon could be 8 mana. I'm not saying even 9, like 8 or 7, like Psychic Scream. There are so many cards you can buff in shaman because these cards just seem bad. But if you want to make Imbue work, at least Embrace, possibly Living Garden. And I guess if you want to help Imbue overall, there is that one neutral Imbue card that, not the ones that imbue, but the one that helps you out in Resplendent Dreamweaver. I would just make this card if you've imbued once, right? Just one time if you've imbued, just to prove you're an imbue deck, have the battle cry go off. Why does it need to be twice? Twice by turn 4? Like, it's not always gonna happen, but one time, that could happen, or you can go crazy and make it go face, but that seems kind of dangerous. So yeah, this card I would look at just, buffing it so that you've imbued one time. And again, I don't think he nerfs Xavius. It's at 45% of decks, but it's such a fair card. It's just good. You want to play it. It's a good card. That's fine. And if we're looking at other buffs or changes, I think that's about it. I'll do an honorable mention to the warrior deck that's a little bit spooky that you never know. The food fight decks are starting to emerge with like the big dragons. Food fight, like the win rate on this card's actually insane now, but they buffed it and I want to get used to that on a signature, but I wouldn't be shocked if they, like this signature here, I wouldn't be shocked if something happens to that deck. It's really cheesy, but yeah, overall, there's a lot of changes they could do. Like I've said, we just had a patch that had like 20 nerfs in it, and I was saying we're probably gonna need another big one, and it sure does look like that will be the case, or maybe they just don't go that approach. We don't know, but when we find out, we'll let you guys know as soon as possible. Again, let me know what you guys would like to see get nerfed, buffed, all that good stuff. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.